Well, hey, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Boombastic Health. We're in the wild here at the Health 2025 conference, the exclusive podcast of the Diagnostic Zone. And I've got a really interesting format here where we have both a healthcare technology company that's bringing value to patients in pharma, as well as an investor, Cris from Sanofi Ventures, here to kind of just talk about some of the big trends that he's seeing. And interestingly, there's no direct connection, no investment or anything, but this is a big ecosystem here at Health, and we all want to help each other. So it's kind of about the rising tide. So Pouria from ixlayer will talk about what they're doing to move healthcare forward. And then Cris will come over with some of his views of the mega trends that are important. Welcome to the podcast, guys.
Thanks for having me. Great to be here. Thank you.
So we heard a lot of talk about using AI in healthcare and about how we're going to help patients get better medications and do a better job of being more predictive and proactive and getting out ahead of things. But there still seems to be a disconnect oftentimes in the pharma world and in the healthcare delivery world in terms of how do we bring the best possible medications to the patients who need them. And it seems like that's an area that ixlayer is really focused. Maybe you could talk a little bit about that.
ixlayer, and it's actually in the name, the I and the X stands for infrastructure and patient experience layer.
Okay.
We support pharma with their direct-to-patient and direct-to-consumer programs, helping pharma reach more patient, allowing patients to accelerate their journey. The way I've been trying to explain this is if you take a patient journey, you have pre-prescription, patient gets an education from pharma, all the way to when they're on the drug, or how they get a prescription. You have prescription to first dose, and you have first post-dose. So there is post-prescription. We live really in that phase 1 to 2.5 to pre-prescription, and we help the patient to accelerate through that journey, make it easier, make it more accessible, so that they can actually get the therapy that they need.
So is there a good specific example of a type of therapy somebody might need that ixlayer is helping to enable that connection? Because I think people can identify with stories that affect patients.
Yeah, I mean, from our customer point of view, any program that has patient advertising, it's patient education, patient marketing, that's a great target. Specifically to Sanofi, we support their type 1 program, diabetes type 1 program, which required a quite complex lab testing as part of the clinical journey. And we also support the Patient-Centric, which is dermatology in the space.
Okay.
And there's a lot of barriers that you need to cover to make sure that patient has a nice, seamless ride through this journey.
Okay. And Sanofi is actually a client, although again, I think so, right? Am I allowed to say that?
Correct, yeah.
Okay. And Cris, though, from Sanofi Ventures, not directly involved with that, but somebody who's involved with trying to invest in the things that are going to make healthcare better. Cris, do you want to talk a bit about what you're doing, what you're focused on, and some of the big trends you see at the conference?
Absolutely. Well, thank you for having me here and
We'll
here with
just the mic here. We got the
very much.
adaptable environment.
Yeah, being at the table. Obviously, an incredible event going on here today, and thanks for hosting us on this podcast. The venture team was really set up back in 2012, really as a life science focused biotech investing arm. There are many flavors of corporate venture capital, but over the past years, Sanofi has really leaned into digital healthcare and really a focus on artificial intelligence and using software to enable some of the things that Pouria is talking about. The venture fund is really, I would say, kind of a tip of the spear tool, if you want to call it that, to be able to access early stage transformational technologies, work with the best founders in the world that are building kind of the future of healthcare is being developed, accessed, delivered, and everything around that, which is rapidly changing, largely due to technology. The venture fund is looking to invest in companies that are free to partner, either too early to invest, too early to maybe buy, partner with, become a customer with. How can we invest in these sort of transformational companies by really stage agnostics? Doesn't really matter if it's A through D, really. I would say C through D. But really focused in ways that we can use the capital, roll up our sleeves, sit at the table around the boardroom, and find ways to kind of shape companies towards those big hairy problems that Sanofi is trying to solve for.
And what size of investment are you typically making? Are these expansion stage companies that are taking down tens of millions of capital, or earlier stage? Just to give an idea for maybe there's somebody out there in our audience that could be a great potential investment for you.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think the letters are shifting all the time. So those C's are now A's and A's are now C's sometimes. So hard to say. And I think we're looking for revenue stage companies where we can see line of sight to, really a strategic home or strategic opportunity there where the 1 + 1 = 3. If these are companies that are typically around the Series B, we're seeing maturity, they're crossing this kind of 5 million ARR stage, this clear product market fit, clear applicability. Maybe there's a few pharma customers, but kind of a capital injection from a strategic like us can really, I would say, boost that focus and maybe prioritization around therapeutic areas. So we try to prioritize really this strategic opportunity. But again, we're either co-leading the round or leading the round ourselves, bringing together tier one investors and finding ways that we can, kind of bring them on to that next chapter of growth, really where the company also believes that pharma at the table has an important role to play. And we also bring lots of other pharma along with us. So it's not like we're trying to
You
we're not-
syndicate it with other
we
pharma
syndicate it with
partners.
other pharma. So it's a very sort of pre-competitive mindset that we came. And I was, 7 years in J&J writing digital innovation, another 6 years in research informatics at Novartis. So we're all kind of friends in the ecosystem and finding ways to make, companies who all need to succeed by using all of pharma prize.
Right. Well, pharma is clearly a major component of the overall healthcare delivery system. And one of the trends I've seen at the conference is this idea that pharma needs to be engaging in a broader array of healthcare services because it's all about trying to benefit the patient. And unfortunately, there have been historical situations where there's been a very keen interest in just getting this individual on this particular drug versus saying, hey, they might need this particular drug that this pharma company provides, but they're a whole person with all kinds of other things going on. How do we bring the right level of care to them? Is that a trend that you see as well?
I think technology has shifted all of our eyeballs to different screens and different ways of consuming information, which, leaves new patterns of behavior for consumers and patients. We react to that. I think it's going to take time for any major, like, sort of leap in technology that leaves a behavioral or technological shift. Will take time to kind of change the current state of the legacy, which we know is evolving rapidly. And so I think it's a perfect case for venture funds to come in, invest ahead of those trends, into those trends, and find ways to kind of create a, front row seat at what are some of the best innovators doing out there. And as you learn from each other, you can start to, kind of carefully absorb those and roll those trends in over time without kind of disrupting what works.
Well, so a lot of the fans of the podcast are entrepreneurs or investors or executives that are always interested to hear the stories behind what's going on. So I'd love to hear your story about how you got into ixlayer and how things have evolved.
Yeah, so we started ixlayer back in 2018, and both founders come from the genomics space. So
Okay.
co-founder was Illumina, was at Felix, and we saw this organization launching genomics platform for Mayo, Geisinger, Cleveland, etc. And every big health system, health organization was reinventing the exact same wheel. Right? They were doing the exact same thing. I'm like, this is a perfect example of SaaS. And so we started it where we launched primarily focusing on genomics. And then after launching pharmacogenomics, carrier screening, newborn screening, we realized, hey, there's a whole world outside of genomics that is actually much easier and much larger. Diabetes, heart health, endocrinology, and so on. So then ixlayer just expanded throughout there. I think within pharma, what's really interesting the last 2 to 3 years is pharma taking some responsibility in helping the patient, but still staying an arm length away from patient data, right? There's a layer, it's called ixlayer. There's a layer between them and clinical services. There's a layer between them and patient data that does not get shared back, but still helping the patient through the journey. If you live in San Francisco, New York, or one of the big cities, and you want to meet a specialist, an endocrine, a dermatology, you're looking at 6 months waiting time. So it doesn't matter that you saw something and it works. You need to go to your provider, you need to convince your provider, you need to get a referral, and then you need to wait 6 months. It's an 8 months journey just to reach that specialist that can prescribe you. If you shrink that, right, you will save lives. It's as simple as that.
And so, is there a measurable study that you've done? Because I know healthcare is all about evidence. What's the evidence that what you're doing is working?
Yeah, so we have multiple programs live. We did a very large study with Ipsos that we published earlier this year that also followed, monitor, or cohort of patients and the success that they had, but also the emotional impact that they had with these programs. And that was published earlier in the year. I shared with you, you can put it on the chat. That significant shows not just success in a sort of a conversion, but success in a patient adaptation and patient-centric care.
Okay, awesome. Well, it is so cool to see this ecosystem coming together. I really appreciate Cris from Sanofi Ventures, Pouria from ixlayer being on the Bombastic Health podcast. Thanks for all you're doing to move healthcare forward. We're all about how do we actually take the action to fix the broken healthcare system, and you two are definitely being a major part of that. So appreciate all your good work.
Thank you so much.
Thanks so much for having us. Appreciate it.
So thank you to everybody for being here for another Bombastic Health in the Wild here at Health 2025 in the Diagnostic Zone. We'll see you at the next episode. Thanks.